So, very good morning, everyone. Today, I'm here with the presentation on colonial legacy in the 21st century, the contemporary relevance of finance, the wretched of the earth. These are the academic information, develop content, and now discuss very quickly and briefly about the Franz Fanon, born in 1925 and died in 1961, born in Martinique, a French colony in the Caribbean, and he's trained as a psychiatrist, later become a revolutionary thinker and political activist. He worked in Algeria during the War of Independence. His medical and political experience shaped his understanding of colonial trauma and liberation. About the wretched of the earth, written during Algeria's anti-colonial struggle, published shortly before Fanon's death, examines colonialism as a system of domination that affects both the oppressor and the oppressed. Explored the psychological, social, cultural, and political dimension of colonization and decolonization, and advocate for revolutionary action and the creation of a new humanism beyond colonial oppression. Here is the colonialism and violence today. So, as per the Fanon's view on violence, we can see that argue that colonialism is rooted in violence. It imposes control through force, fear, and psychological domination. Believe that decolonization is inherently violent, as it involves dismantling oppressive system and reclaiming humanity. And also, so violence is not only a physical act but also a psychological necessity for the colonized to regain agency and identity. Here is the contemporary lens that today's world still reflect colonial pattern of domination and control, and systematic violence is visible in state action, police brutality, and economic exploitation, and militarized policing and racial profiling mirror colonial method of surveillance and control. So cultural violence continues through media, stereotypes, education system, and political marginalization. Here is the example with both the global example and from the Indian context also. So the Black Lives Matter movement exposed structural racism rooted in colonial ideologies of white supremacy. So this Black Lives Matter. This happened in the year of 2013 and in the UK, and here is the Palestinian resistance highlights ongoing neo-colonial aggression, territorial control, and cultural erasures. Here is the Indian context that state violence in regions like Kashmir and the Northeast mirrors colonial policing strategies and suppression of dissent. And here is a tribal and indigenous struggle. Adivasi movement against displacement and mining projects reveal neo-colonial exploitation and land and resources. And third is a farmer protest. In the year is 2020 to 2021. Showcased resistance against neoliberal politics that echo global economic domination, a continuation of colonial style exploitation. Then racism and oppression. So, as per the Fanon's perspective, racism is a colonial construct. Fanon argues that racism was a tool of domination used to justify exploitation and maintain colonial hierarchies. And psychological oppression is colonized subjects internalized feeling of inferiority, leading to identity conflict and cultural alienation. And social hierarchy is social colonial powers divided societies through racial and cultural ranking reinforcing inequality and control. Here is the contemporary relevance, like systematic racism continues to shape global power relation and institutional structures, and xenophobia and exclusion persist through immigration policies, the labor discrimination, and representation gaps. The Black Lives Matter movements expose systematic violence and racial bias rooted in colonial ideologies. And here is the Indian context examples, like caste and colorism. So while India's caste system predates colonialism, British rule reinforced and uh, re racialized caste divisions, linking whiteness with superiority and darkness with inferiority. So representation gaps, Dalit, Adivasis, and minority communities remain under represented in the elite institutions, and echoing Fanon's critique of systematic exclusion. So here is the chart that Shudra and untouchables consider as a inferiority. So darkness for the inferiority, and this Brahmin and Kshatriya and Vaishya is considered as a superiority. So whiteness for the superiority. Then mental health and post-colonial trauma. So, as per the Fanon's perspective, colonization and the psyche, Fanon as psychiatrists argue that colonial domination dehumanizes the colonized, producing feeling of inferiority and self-alienation. Mental health under oppression, the colonized internalize the colonizers gaze seeing themselves as a inferior, which leads to anxiety, self-hatred, and identity crisis. And here is the contemporary view that the post-colonial communities continue to experience intergeneration trauma passed down through stories of displacement, slavery, and marginalization. And migrant and a disparate population often face cultural dislocation, identity loss, and depression, reflecting Fanon's psychological insights. So here is the example of Indian context that caste and mental health. Marginalized communities like a Dalit, Adivasi, so experience psychological traumas due to historical and systematic oppression comparable to colonial mental wounds. And studies show higher levels of stress, depression, and anxiety among caste oppressed group. Here's the partition trauma, 1947. The partition caused mass displacement, violence, and loss, leaving deep psychological scars across generations. Contemporary literature and therapy studies in India recognize intergenerational trauma as a colonial and nationalist legacy. And is Kashmir and Northeast India communities under prolonged militarization exhibit the signs of collective traumas, PTSD, and fear, echoing Fanon's description of life under colonial rule. And here is the social class and neo-colonialism. So, as per the Fanon's perspective, economics roots of colonialism, Fanon argues that colonialism is not just political domination, but an economic system designed to extract wealth from the colonized and persist of inequality after political independence. Economic dependence often continues, creating neo-colonial structure controlled by global capitalism. And the lumpen proletariat, Fanon emphasized the revolutionary potential of the most oppressed and marginalized peasant, works, and the unemployed as a true agent of social change. And here is the contemporary relevance, like a neocolonialism through globalization. Former colonial powers maintain dominance through trade, debt, and multinational corporations. Here is the example, like a rural and tribal exploitation. So, how Adivasi and Dalit communities remain economically marginalized, and then education crisis and global markets, like as we see earlier, farmer protest 2020 to 21 highlights resistance of neo-liberal agriculture reforms that favor global corporations over small farmers. And now I conclude my presentation here. So, Franz Fanon's The Wretched of the Earth continues to hold powerful relevance in the 21st century, offering a framework to understand how colonial legacies still shapes modern society. His insights into violence, racism, and class exploitation and psychological trauma reveal that decolonization is not merely a political event, but an ongoing process of reclaiming identity, dignity, and equality. In contemporary India and across the global South, issue like economic disparity, caste oppression, and colorism and cultural alienation mirror the structure Fanon's critique. Thus, true liberation today demands confronting not only political and economic domination, but also the deeper psychological and cultural wounds of colonialism. These are the references. And thank you so much. Now you can ask the question. Social media.
My question is how can Fanon's idea help us to understand social media activism today?
uh, uh, as per Fanon, tell that silence is like silence is the oppression. So through the social media, ordinary people also raise their voice for their rights and for the injustice and all. So they can also uh, uh, raise their voice against the authority through the post, through the videos and various online platforms. Social so through the social media, ordinary people or marginalized people also raise their voice, and through the social media use of through social media, they can also uh, raise their voice against the authority.
So, Bhumi, my question is that what does finance call for new humanism still matters?
Fanon's new humanism, like we Fanon's ideas that we have to build a new world. There is no any discrimination, but all are treated equally, and there is no any class discriminations, culture, and no not anyone judged by their race and culture and social class. So if uh, humanity learn or learn all the people equally. So yes, that is how the finance call that new humanism is still matter. This is from my side. Thank you so much.